Hello everybody, this is the Wikstrand, so I have a very special place in my heart for good, solid medieval movies. Great movies about, kings and crusades and knights and intrigues and castles and stuff like that. That is my absolute jam. Whether it is, Kingdom of Heaven or The Last Duel or Braveheart, I love those movies through and through. What do these movies have in common? Well, they're made by very competent people, they have good actors, and they have a great budget. You gotta have that. And this movie has checked notes, none of those things. So we don't exactly have a great time in front of us. This is Barbarossa, the King. So Friedrich I, Emperor of the Holy Roman Empire, has now invaded northern Italy. He is known to the history as Barbarossa. That was a nickname that was given to him because of his big red beard. Barbarossa is, by the way, the Italian word for red beard. I don't know whether or not that is true or not, but we'll let that one slide. So he's going to suppress northern Italy, especially the towns of Lodi and Milano. So this is essentially our movie. And Rutger Hauer, who plays Barbarossa, he's on, all the posters and all the promotional materials and all the DVD covers and stuff like that for this movie. But he doesn't play a very big role in this movie, because that distinction goes to Alberto, who is sort of our not William Wallace, who stands against Barbarossa and tries to form the Milanese League and trying to protect Italy and stuff like that from the invaders from the north. That is basically what we have to deal with, and he's so boring and he's such an uninteresting character. I didn't care about him, and I didn't care about all the schemes and plottings and stuff like that is going on here. I don't know how they did it, but they were able to somehow make me not care about, this underdog story about the Milanese League, and they're trying to, fight against the tyranny and the might of the Holy Roman Empire and stuff like that. I don't know how they did it. Usually, if we have an underdog story of this kind, automatically you're signing with them. Yeah, fuck those fucking, Holy Roman Empire guys. Screw them. But I didn't. Maybe it was because how stilted the dialogue was. Maybe it was how boring he was as a character. Maybe it was how uninteresting it was. This movie is also very weirdly structured, so you have a hard time following exactly what is happening. The battle sequences are not very good. They're not terrible. The costumes look okay, and the environment that they're shooting at is actually northern Italy, so it looks and feel like you are actually there, and the sets looks totally fine, but 9 million euros ain't going to show you the grand spectacle of how this must have looked. So the movie looks a little bush league and a little bit made for TV. It doesn't help the fact that the dialogue in this movie is absolutely horrible, and everybody's just having this amazing amount of exposition-heavy dialogue to the point where you actually think that most of conversation is going to start with, as you know. And we also have this weird subplot with this woman that is accused to be a witch and stuff like that, and we have weird things happening all the time. I couldn't follow the story quite well. It was quite boring for most of the time, and when it got down to do the fighting and the siege and stuff like that, it didn't look particularly good, and I couldn't really follow who was fighting who and for what. By the way, part of this movie was actually financed by a right-wing Italian party Lega Nord, who at the time was pressing for that the northern part of Italy was supposed to be their own country and stuff like that, to the point where actually their own leader Umberto Bossi actually has a cameo in this movie. I know that some people has accused this movie of being some sort of fascist propaganda or Lega Nord propaganda. Maybe, but I couldn't really see it. I just could see a kind of boring, underwhelming movie that tried way too hard and put way too little money and way too little talent into doing this. If you're into medieval movies, do not see this movie. There are so many better movies. If you do not like medieval movies, this is not going to be a movie that will sway you in any way. You will just see this as a boring, underwhelming, and tedious movie that just keeps going on forever, and very little things actually happens. Could more Rutger Hauer have saved this movie? Maybe, because I mean the story about the Milanese League and the brothers and the fightings and the stuff like that was so boring and so uninteresting, and you couldn't really follow them, and they were for some reason, not likable characters. I mean, the Barbarossa is not, you know, the choir boy himself, but he was at least a character that was at least a little bit interesting. We also have to talk for a second about the ending. Now, I am not a military expert. I do not know the ins and outs of military tacticians, but I do know this. If this that happens in the end, you know, with the wagons and the scythes and stuff like that, actually happens, it has to be regarded as the biggest blunder in the history of military warfare. It looked just so ridiculous, and it looked so hokey and staged and bullshit. So I was like, what? What the fuck is going on here? Are you completely incompetent? And then the movie ends with lots and lots of title cards explaining what happened later, which made me think, you have 139 minutes to tell this story and you couldn't do it, so you had to release all of these title cards thingies. The stories that the title cards are telling us is kind of more interesting than, you know, the story that we just saw. Maybe they should have done that one instead. I don't know. But it was very, very confusing. This movie has a difficulty level of 10 and an execution level of 5. It should be the opposite. It's an oddly structured, amateurish movie. I give this movie 33 points. The movie looks good in some aspects. The set looks decent, and the costumes looks decent, and then the battle actually looks almost fine at times. It is an underwhelming movie, and I don't know what the point of it was. So we'll see you next time for Well So and So Reviewing Well, such and such. Thank you for watching. Thank you very much.